Is this the last go-around for Billy Napier as Florida's head football coach? Let's get into it. When Billy Napier was named Florida's head coach after the 2021 football season, there was a lot of hype around him coming from Louisiana in the Sun Belt Conference, where at Louisiana he mastered a 40-12 record, which comes out to a 76 win percentage. So there was a lot of hype for what Billy Napier could build at Florida and could return them back to the Urban Meyer, Steve Spurrier days. But, well, that hasn't been the case. His first year was 6-7, and his past year was 5-7. So there's rumors of him being on the hot seat and potentially being fired mid-season. And while the on-field results have not been there, Billy Napier's actually done a really good job recruiting. But when we look at what Florida State and Mike Norvella's built up after coming in and taking over a terrible program and what Willie Taggart did, it makes sense why Florida is wanting to run Billy Napier out of town. But not really. Well, like I said, the on-the-field results haven't been there. Billy Napier's done a really good job recruiting. They just finished with the 7th-ranked class, highlighted by quarterback DJ Lagway. They also got LJ McCray and Aaron Childs in that class as well. And that is one of the highest-ranking Florida recruiting classes since recruiting has been followed like we know how it is today. So if Florida just gives Billy Napier a little bit more time, I know in this day and age where we want results instantly, especially with the transfer portal and getting programs flipped overnight, I think Billy Napier needs another year or two with his recruiting class that he's got coming in this year, because Graham Mertz, who we got in the transfer portal, who we all remember from Wisconsin, I don't think a lot of people realize how good of a season he had. And while, yes, it's because nobody was watching Florida because they weren't great, Graham Mertz was a really quality player last year, and then they got all the hype and star potential that they have in their backup quarterback and true freshman and DJ Lagway. In my opinion, I think Lagway will become that star quarterback that a lot of us think he was and what his recruiting profile expects him to be. And it just shows that these recruits are really buying into what Billy Napier is selling them. Well, yes, he is losing, but they're buying in, and those high school ranks are buying into what he is selling, and they just imagine what is going to happen when those results and those close losses turn into wins. And he's also killing it in the transfer portal as well. They got highly touted corner Cormani McClain, who left Colorado and just couldn't get on the field and had nothing to do with talent, just all inside the ears. And then they also got Elijah Badger, receiver from Arizona State, who's also a really good receiver and will provide quality depth and quality play at the receiver position. And they also got Jameer Grimsley, a corner from Alabama, who should up their floor in that DB room as well. So Florida is adding a lot of quality players, but the big loss is, yes, Etienne, their running back, the brother of Travis Etienne, the Jacksonville Jaguars running back. Etienne transfers not just out and not to any school, but transfers to Georgia, arguably Florida's biggest rival. And, well, you could argue that if Billy Napier wins like they are expecting him and why they're paying him, that he'll just survive and not be one of the first coaches fired mid-season. But that's a lot easier said than done if you really want to see the fruitions of this high school recruiting class and what reached their potential. Because they start off against Miami on ABC at 3:30, that mid game that a lot of people, that 3:30 slot that a lot of people watch. And, well, that's a big game for both schools because whoever comes out the winner is going to look good and get a little bit. That hot seat's going to cool off a little bit. And whoever loses between Cristobal and Billy Napier, that hot seat is just going to flick up even more. And then a couple weeks later, they got A&M, who's expected to be good this year. They get Mike Elko coming in from Duke and what he did at Duke. Mississippi State is expected to have a down year, but always going on the road to Starkville is always a tough game. And then they play UCF. I don't think a lot of people realize what UCF just did in the portal and what they've done in the high school recruiting ranks and what they're going to start doing in the high school recruiting ranks. That game's not no slouch either. They got KJ Jefferson, the former Arkansas quarterback now, going into Neyland now with them and what Tennessee's doing, going up against Nico and Josh Heupel. That game's not a gimme. Billy Napier's had this bugaboo of not being able to beat Kentucky. And Kentucky's always just supposed to be an easy win for Florida. That really hasn't been the case in the Billy Napier era. And Stoops is a good coach. Kentucky's a good program. And then we got Georgia. That game, Georgia's probably just going to run them over. And then they got to go to Texas Memorial Stadium and take on Quinn Ewers and Stark. Texas probably beats them. They do get LSU and Ole Miss at home in back-to-back weeks. Not easy games either. If you've watched my previous video, I believe Ole Miss is a playoff team this year. But being at home, hopefully you get you win one or two of those games, and Billy Napier, if he is still there, that'll give him some good resolve with the fan base and the boosters. And then, of course, they end the year at Doak Campbell and taking on Florida State, who, in my opinion, should be a top 4 seed in the CFP this year. It's not going to be easy for Florida. Billy Napier, yes, has killed at recruiting, but you need results at a place like Florida. That fan base is not patient, and it's just because they're used to winning. They want to get back to what Steve Spurrier was doing and what Urban was doing in the mid to late 2000s, and I don't blame them. Florida, for a lot of people, if you grew up in that Urban era, you looked at Florida as one of the powerhouses, the way teams, or the way people view Alabama and Georgia now. That's how people viewed Florida if you were growing up in that time. People were just used to Florida dominating, and that just hasn't happened. I think if they just give Billy Napier another year or two, he'll right the ship, because he's a good coach. You just don't forget how to coach. Yes, you can argue it's a G5 school, it's a lower level school, what he was doing at Louisiana, but football is football at the end of the day. The only thing that really changes are the skill positions and athletes being more athletic at the higher levels of D1. I just think Billy Napier is a good coach, and it's not something we want to do in this day and age, whether that be with sports or outside of sports. If you should give people time. Yes, Billy Napier is kind of doing it the old-fashioned way of getting his guys in, getting them in the high school ranks. But like I've said, they've done really good in the transfer portal, getting Elijah Badger and Cormani McClain, Jameer Grimsley, Jason Zindamala from USC, who should help them on the inside line. Florida will be fine if they just give Billy Napier some time. Graham Mertz has been quality for them last year, and I expect him to still be that this year as long as he doesn't get injured. And as previous statement, as everyone knows, they got DJ Lagway waiting in the wings. So Florida's future is looking on the up. It's just, will Billy Napier get this time? As always, please like, subscribe, and turn post notifications on. And let me know down in the comments, do you think Billy Napier makes it through this season? Do you think he's fired after the season or mid-season? And do you think Florida can get through this grueling gauntlet of a schedule and make a bowl game?